How's it going, folks? Tactar Ted, September 1st. Yeah, this is going to be the miscellaneous, everything but Ukraine today. So, what is going on, folks? Well, let's talk about this day in history. Today, 18 years ago, September 1st, there was a terrorist attack on a school, a 3-day siege at a school. In the end, 180 some people died. In fact, I may be wrong on the numbers. It may have been more than 180 some. I think it may have been 180 some children. There may have been other folks that died. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Chances are you don't. It was in a place called Beslan. It was a city in our town in North Ossetia, not to be confused with South Ossetia. It's north of Georgia in Russia. And a bunch of terrorists came in on the first day of September, which is the first day of school in Russia. In Russia, it's a big deal. Families come, they bring their kids, everybody's there, everybody's dressed, you give the teacher flowers. I mean, it is a huge deal. And the terrorists, who were part of the special peaceful people in the Caucasus region, attacked that school. And they put everybody in a gym, they wired it to blow up, and they shot a few people just to make a point. After 3 days, the Russians decided that they couldn't risk them blowing everything up and killing everyone, and they flipped a coin. They flipped a coin and they raided, and the building did get blown up, and a lot of people died, and the terrorists made a bloody mess out of it. People will say that's a failure. I would say that the Russians look at terrorism a lot differently than we do. They understand that everybody that the terrorists take as hostage are dead, and any lives that they can get back in the end are a benefit. But they are going to kill the terrorist. And to this day, there has not been a school in Russia attacked by terrorists. That's a simple fact, folks. To this day, there has not been an attack on another school by terrorists in Russia. Just like the theater, the Nordost Theater in Moscow. The FSB went in, they pumped it full of gas, they saved everybody, but unfortunately the gas they pumped in, they didn't bring enough antidote, and people died. But guess what, folks? Terrorists have not attacked another theater in Moscow like that. Because, very simply, everybody needs to understand you will fail to make your point, and we will kill you. And that's how the Russians view it. And Beslan's a huge tragedy, folks. 18 years on, entire families were decimated in that attack. And we don't talk about, we talk about 9/11. 9/11 was pretty horrific. And yes, 9/11, a huger body count. But proportionately more children died in Beslan, Russia. But we won't talk about that because, well, hey, Russia bad, so we can't talk about it. I will tell you, a lot of members of the FSB Alpha units, they're special forces that belong to the FSB, which is a combination of FBI and CIA, for the Russian government. A lot of those guys gave their lives trying to save children. There is a monument to those guys. It's a piece of body armor with a teddy bear underneath of it. And it's a monument for those guys who got snuffed trying to save children in Beslan. So a moment of silence for them would be appropriate. I don't have a moment right now. I'll have a moment to reflect just after midnight this morning, at the beginning of the siege. Next item, bald and bankrupt. Benjamin Rich. Anybody follow Benjamin Rich? Bald and bankrupt. Bald and bankrupt. He's called it quits. It's done. The notorious YouTuber, Benjamin Rich, goes by the name of Bald and Bankrupt. He's been having a bit of a hard time doing some of his travels in the former Soviet Union because of the war in Ukraine. And he made a misstep. He got arrested in Kazakhstan on the territory of the Baikonur Cosmodrome, a place that I'm somewhat familiar with. For trespassing, he got into the building where the Barons were. Basically had to pay like a $60 fine, him and his one of his female companions, a Belarusian lady. And he kind of went dormant for a while. Then he, tried to get back into Ukraine, was turned away at the border. They wouldn't let him into Ukraine. And recently he was going to travel to the Far East to a city on the coast, and he was planning on ending there. I really don't think that he planned. I think it was one of those deals. He didn't really plan on ending his career. It was kind of like, well, are you going to take a hiatus? I kind of figured at the beginning of the video we'd see him back again eventually. The Russians took him into custody, or asked him to come down to the police station and straighten a few things out, and they charged him with a crime. I still don't know what the crime was. He was found guilty and had to leave Russia. And from what I understand, the way Mr. Rich made it sound is that he will not be allowed back onto the territory of the Russian Federation. And he made a comment about how Russia is a country that likes to shoot itself in the foot, because Mr. Rich did portray the Russian people as a friendly, decent people, and people out of Belarus, the people out of Ukraine. He showed people. He didn't show the government. He showed people. And much to his credit, Mr. Rich was a voice that did not portray Russia in a negative light. I know at least in one interview, he had a few things to say that weren't too kind about the Belarusian leader. But generally, he has stayed away from, political intrigue. But I do think that for as well as Mr. Rich understood the Russian language, he didn't kind of understand Russian culture, and he didn't understand several things. So a lot of people are going to miss it. So let me put it out there for you. You're going to be judged in this world by the company that you keep. Let me say that one more time. You are going to be judged by the company that you keep. The circles I travel in, people understand that. I've got a friend of mine has a pretty decent gig going on, a pretty decent clearance. And, he's made the choice to distance himself because of my stance on politics. And, I understand that. That's what he feels that he needs to do to keep going with his gig. Unfortunately, Benjamin Rich didn't do that. Some of the folks that he has associated with in the past didn't have a problem trashing the Russian government. Your friendly neighborhood Russian, Roman, as soon as the war started in Ukraine, he ran away and started talking shit about Russia. Known accomplice, known guy that hangs out with Bald and Bankrupt, did more than a couple videos together. This guy has been inflammatory to the Russian government. Another guy goes by the name of Johnny FD, out of Ukraine. He claims to be Mongolian. I don't know whether he's Thai, whatever. Don't care. His ethnicity doesn't matter. Bought an apartment in Kiev, and one of his videos recently, he was bragging up and extolling the virtues of Azov. Yes, the neo-Nazi organization inside Ukraine. Azov. Yeah, yeah, those great guys, those guys with all the tattoos and swastikas, the guys who've like been killing and hanging people in Donbass for 8 years, the people who hid like rats under the cellar of Azovstal. Johnny FD thinks those are good guys. And he's a known associate. He's done several videos with Benjamin Rich. And then there was the other thing, which I'd mentioned earlier. Benjamin Rich trespassed on the area, the Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. Now, I think that once this had all happened, once we get down to the end of it, that it's real simple. The Russians felt that here's a guy who didn't respect their laws. Here's a guy who has videotaped himself breaking a lot of rules. Going into areas he's not supposed to. In Georgia, going into a place that had security guards, flying the security guards. He's doing all this on camera. He's doing it all on camera. Then, risking getting caught and then flaunting it. I think at some point, the Russians had to say, hey, look, this guy has a habit of not following the rules. He hangs out with some people who are hostile to our country or our government. We probably need to get him out of here. And it was interesting for me. I don't know what Mr. Rich was accused of doing in Russia. I just know that he was found guilty. It's not an immigration violation, but probably not, or they would have stopped him at the border entering into Russia. He was not stopped at the border. He was stopped in the midst of his travels. I will tell you from traveling inside Russia, they keep a pretty tight grip on you. If you're a foreigner, they take a look at your passport when you buy tickets to travel bus or plane or train. Something happened inside Russia. Don't know what it was. Not going to pry. That's Mr. Rich's business unless he wants to make it public. Not too concerned about it. But this is why you need to watch what you do when you travel abroad. And this isn't simply Russia. This is the rest of the world. You need to understand the laws. You need not to be flaunting yourself, breaking the rules, and you need not to think that you're above the WNBA. What's her face? I didn't know I had my weed in Russia. I didn't know weed was illegal in Russia. Yeah, weed's illegal in Russia. You had weed in Russia. You get to see the inside of a Russian prison. I've seen the outsides of Russian prisons. That scares the hell out of me. I don't want to see the inside of a Russian prison. I did see the inside of a Russian jail, but we're not going to go into that. That's another story. Anyhow, folks, you need to be aware of what you do when you travel in other countries. The USA is not what the USA used to be as far as free speech and free action. We're not. And the rest of the world has never been what we were. And we're no longer what we were. Speak your free mind today, you're called a fascist. Say something that somebody doesn't like and you're A, B, C, D, E, whatever. Anything but what you are. And your actions speak louder than words. So just remember, people are going to judge you by the company you keep. Lay down with dogs, you get fleas. That's just simple. We have these sayings for a reason. It's not just something that somebody made up one day. The rest of the world is not the United States. Now, Mr. Rich's content was great content. I enjoyed many of their videos. I've sat down and spent hours after I discovered Bald and Bankrupt watching his videos. Excellent job, well done. Sometimes he was a little too cheeky. Sometimes he was a little too arrogant for my taste when you're traveling in another country. But I think that's a little bit of what made it entertaining. don't. I like to see some of these protesting groups that don't like the police. You know, they don't have a problem walking up to a police officer. Fuck you. Fuck this. Fuck that. Getting in their face. Don't have a problem cussing them out. I would love to see them go to some other countries. I'd like to see you go to Tijuana and try that with the local police. It's not going to end well. I'd like to see you do that in Germany. Yeah, Germany. You know, liberal Germany, where the cops carry Uzis and MP5s and tend not to take a lot of shit. Liberal Germany. Try that in liberal Germany. See how that works out for you. Try that in Russia. It's not going to work out well. It's not going to work out well. Especially if you're from a country that has sanctions on Russia and is trying to harm Russia. You know, full disclosure, I thought about traveling to Russia earlier this year. Fiscally, financially, it wasn't worth it. Wanted to go visit family. You know, between COVID and this, I've got kids who've not seen their grandparents. Well, haven't seen grandma since 2019, and it's been longer than that since they've seen their granddaddy. So I really kind of would like to have went and traveled, but number one, it costs too much money because of the sanctions. Number two, I don't know that I'd be very well received. You know, I did watch the video that Mr. Rich posted, and it seemed like most of the people inside Russia were treating him just as nice as they always did. I, you know, didn't see a big change in it. I know he made a few jokes. Not really sure if the jokes were made at slams at Russia or whether they were just slams at Starbucks, McDonald's, and other companies that are no longer doing business. Although he did thank a Russian card company that he was able to deposit money with and travel around Russia using a card instead of carrying a big wad of rubles on him. So anyhow, folks, if you take anything away from this, you need to take away that when you're in somebody else's house, you don't shit on the floor, even if you shit on the floor at home. You got to be able to understand what the rules are and adhere to the rules. And, you know, I'm kind of sad to see Bald and Bankrupt go. I am. For me, it was interesting. He got to travel to places I won't ever get to travel to. I just don't have the time or the money to travel that extensively. And with the current political situation, I certainly don't have the money. And, you know, my country is going to fight a war to the last Ukrainian, and they're going to give every drop of money, no matter how many people here have to suffer in this country. Every drop of money that we have will go to Ukraine. The Germans have said it. But there we are. We're tripping into Ukraine. Anyhow, folks, you take it easy. A Ukraine update is also coming today.